4 years. It's like our Super Bowl. We have primary season, and it's hotter than ever, and we're right here at the epicenter of it. The Slinging Birdies brings you the Real Real, which is now a good way to buy shoes too, from legitimate people, the Real Real. It's like the legitimate vision of what they envisioned on Parks and Recreation. Anyway, here we are. Undercover, Jun Takahashi. Very cool. You see the new line on the Nikes though too? It's here. We make noise, not clothes. That's really cool. We make noise, not clothes. I love it. So the question was, will the price of Nikes go up because of the coronavirus? And the answer is no. There's a supply disruption, yes. There's going to be more scarce, it'll be hard to get them, but they're going to resist raising the price, at least, unless it lingers on for another month or two. Then you may see that. You may see that. But for now, the same.
Hello, how's everybody doing? What's up, brother? How y'all doing? What's up? I just came to buy shoes. Shit changed.
If you're already voting for Sanders, make some noise like you're part of the revolution, please. Couple things. First of all, there's a census going on, and we seem to have forgotten that. So let's make sure that we get people out and participate in the census, because every American needs to be counted, right? We need to make sure our communities are full, and if they're going to use guys in jail to count as a census of these small counties, I need to make sure that more progressive people in different places are counted as well. So let's make sure we encourage people to do that. The second thing is, let's make sure we encourage people to vote, period. It is a very precious right that we hold in this country, and it is one we too often take for granted, because we're Americans and we can buy fast food and drink whiskey, right? Thirdly, let's convince people to vote for Senator Bernard Sanders. We're in the South, we're hugely Democratic, and we're hugely distrustful of new people and new faces. But I want to tell you that 57 years ago in the South, if I told you I'd have a room full of white people, black people, men, women, gay, straight, and different and otherwise, and they'd be together pulling for a short Jewish guy from Brooklyn who's in Vermont, 57 years ago, every Southern accent would have said, that's a goddamn lie. 57 years removed, we are now one of the most progressive places in the world in terms of the demographics and how they're growing. It is time that we are as radical as our grandparents were. Our grandparents were radical enough to desegregate counters, to desegregate stores. Our grandparents were radical enough to make voting rights acts not just for black people, but for women, for the poor. Our grandparents were radical enough to protect unions and to protect workers' rights. So I dare us to be that radical in this time. I dare us to have the courage to say, I'm going to go for the most radical guy of the bunch, because even if we don't hit the moon, at least we hit our head on the ceiling. Enough of on the floor politics, enough of good enough politics, enough for this is good as we can get politics. This room, looking at you and the diversity, not the poll diversity as, not the this is the coalition of, the people that I see in this room give me hope that we are doing the right thing at the right moment. I don't think this moment is going to present itself 4 years from now. I don't think this moment presents itself 2 years from now. I think this moment is the absolute right now. And I don't think we have to waste time arguing with people who disagree with us. I think we should be spending time door knocking, phone calling, convincing our friends to not let apathy seep in and to come to the polls with us. It's time for us to be as radical as our grandparents were. It's time for us to be as radical as our grandparents who said, I do not agree with separation and segregation in the South. And I, as a white person, or I, as a person outside, a person of color, wish to advocate with them. Even if that means being handcuffed and going to jail. Even if that means putting my life in peril. It is time to be radical enough as the African American community to say, I'm not going to let apathy, and I'm not going to let blind allegiance to a party telling me who to vote for versus what I know is instinctually right. So I'm not here today, again, to give you fiery rhetoric to fire you up because you're already supporting a guy who's already got us all fired up. I'm saying that when we leave here today, our mission is to make sure people participate in that census, is to make sure people participate and use their right to vote, and it is thirdly and most importantly to me, make sure that people participate in this election and vote on behalf of Senator Bernard Sanders. Because truly, I've never in my lifetime seen a politician that was more for us. And what I mean by us is not just me. It's not just you. It's not just you. It literally is for us. When people start to argue his points, I say to myself, in 20 years, where do I want to be? In 20 years, my 13-year-old daughter will be 33 years old. Do I want a 33-year-old woman who's straddled with debt? Do I want a 33-year-old woman who's free because she has no debt? Not just because her dad was rich, but because that I took the courage to vote, to pay slightly higher taxes, and I made sure that her and her friends that were qualified could go to school and or trade school. 20 years from now, and we're going to have marijuana legislation that not only freed people, but allowed the people that had been free, that bore the burden of the drug war, into the market that they helped create, or are we just going to be like liquor and mafias are going to control distribution of liquor, and we're going to have a craft brew movement 50 years later because we didn't do the thing from day one. We can do what's right from day one, and this is day one. This is ground zero, and our time is right now. Knock on those doors, convince people to come out to the polls, call your friends, convince them why voting for Sanders makes the most sense for them. Tell your 17 and 18-year-olds that it's time to get registered. You're coming to the polls with me. My son's first time casting his vote will be this year. He turned 18 2 days ago. I had never discussed this with him. I turned to him after we talked about it and said, who are you going to vote for? He said, you already know, OG Uncle Sanders. And I was happy because he wants to go to trade school. He told me last year, I don't want to go to college, Dad. I want to go to trade school. And after I got over the disappointment of knowing he's not going to go to Morehouse, I started saying, well, shit, trade school just might be free if I vote for the right guy. And I want us to do the right thing. I want us to get out there and encourage our neighbors. And I don't want this coalition to end with Bernie Sanders. If he wins or loses, he's already won. Because if you look around the room, the people that are here are not alike. You don't look alike. You don't have the same religion. You don't eat the same shit at your barbecue. But what you are is you're united around making sure everyone has a fair shot. So, pre-election, let's work our ass off for Bernie. On election night, let's make sure that we voted for him not only in the primaries, but in the general election. And then after that, let's make sure the coalition you see around you stays a coalition locally. We need Bernie Kratz in local offices. We need Bernie Kratz as mayors. We need Bernie Kratz as city council people, county commissioners. I want Bernie Kratz as police chiefs because I'm tired of getting my ass kicked at pullovers. We need more people like you running for office also. I won't be happy if we just get him in office and we don't get any of you guys in office. We need you running in local elections. We need you supporting people locally. We need you to door knock every 2 years, not just every 4 years. I believe in you. This is my second time in this store. I appreciate you. I will come back a hell of a lot more and help whoever I need to help, however I need to help them. But let's make sure that today, tomorrow, and the days to come, that we're firmly letting the people know around us that we're voting Senator Bernie Sanders and that we intend to walk with him all the way into the White House.
We just hung out with Killer Mike doing his spiel. He's a political surrogate, as many of you know, and you could tell from what he said, he's good at it. Killer Mike, I think he's going to be the mayor of Atlanta in the not too distant future. And you just saw like the beginnings of that. It's coming. I can feel it. Run the jewels.